Last fucking chapter I'm gonna make of this. Last fucking straw. I think it goes without saying. Don't start with me, game. Don't you start. I'm gonna make this run the last one I'm gonna do. Why? I am tired of it all. I think it's time we teach them a lesson. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bed and sat on top of the futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting. Watching just in case someone tried to break in through the window. If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself I'm paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought, being so vulnerable, had scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking the risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better to just stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside. But that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply rising. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Rana was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief that the night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I needed to make my own breakfast, so I better get started. Skimming school was an option. With my mom gone, it would be easier to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved leaving my house was incalculable, so staying holed up in here was probably the safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So, unless I found some proof, these relentless nights will never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing, regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any cars that drive by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. Alright, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Please lend me your strength, Satoshi, and entrust your dying regrets to me since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure that I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. Still early. Of course I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Reno and Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right, I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around with a phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. I'd be wasting time if I cleaned up right now, and considering what would happen if I ran into those two. It wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to go to school in a tracksuit. Wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last will be me. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After Rana arrived, our eyes met, but we said nothing. She said nothing about last night, as if it never did happen. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Satoko and the others that the bandages were for hurting herself in the kitchen. Though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details Oishi shared about Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena's cute ideal girl. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the Nationals. Mion. I sensed her approached. I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion, if you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy. I gave her a curt reply without the usual joking. And I gave the bat an even larger swing, tactically keeping Mion from getting any closer. Kei-chan, take it easy. Mion got the message, but I think she still is urging me to give it a rest. Homeroom's not that far off, isn't it? Let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did he get you to baseball? Recently. What do you mean, yesterday? Don't ask if you don't already know. Oh dear, that's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me, now go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder. But she just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility. But we were at school in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something. What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. I was right on my way to be able to move as needed when the time comes. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build some stamina up, in addition to the excuse of carrying a bat around. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again. Now we'll be fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judge this situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from others, that's out of the question. Well, she was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oishi, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. She was puzzled trying to find the right words to say. But she gave me a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mirror. Oh, this old man's just no good. Having poor vocabulary hurts. So, what is this all of a sudden? You have something to say, just say it. How about you stop it? Stop swinging. She cut straight to the point. Her request was frank, and I didn't understand for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? Wait, didn't I just stop? Not what I meant. I want today to be the last day you start swinging that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking. What was wrong with swinging a bat? Why, it's none of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone. Yes, you are. She said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Oh, shit. She was at a loss for words, but she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't be borrowing it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Yeah, he transferred. She grew uncharacteristically flustered. It made it all too clear that this transfer was a lie. Strange, isn't it? For the older brother to be transferred by himself, while his little sister stayed behind. Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her. Kei-chan! You knew? Satoshi Hojo, Sadako's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year. Unable to respond, she fell silent. Rena asked the same thing, Why did you start swinging that bat? She told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings, right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen for the curse? Shh! She panicked and looked around. Please don't mention Oyashiro-sama so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others do. Rena especially. Dangerously so. Anyway, you're starting to scare everyone. If you're just gonna fool around, stop it. You have to stop acting like this guy. I was the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? It was still unsettling me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It wouldn't be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me about him. What? We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding behind the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? Well, that's because we didn't want to... You didn't want to scare me. That's your reason for leaving me out? We didn't mean to. Mion, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? You told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered, murdered. You lied to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, don't we? Is that right? Aren't you my friends? Then you aren't. Kei-chan, we... She looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mion acting like this. By the way, the get well mochi you bought the other day, they were good. I thought I was going to bleed. So, who did it? You, Rena? Me? She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy it was. You could have killed me, you know that? How could you do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. She gave me a wry smile, mixed with confusion, causing even more anger. You think that was a prank? I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce on a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I swallowed that and it lodged in my throat, what would she think would happen? Her face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion I knew. So, anyways, you're no longer my friend. No reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. Leave me alone for a while. Got it? She wasn't replying anymore. It wouldn't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been onto you from the start. Don't think you can make me disappear like you did to him. I said it clearly. My declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous instance, too. I knew you spent a lot of time with the cops ever since the anti-dam movement, so don't think you can hide it from me. Got it? Wait, how? How did you even know? She stood there with a dumbstruck look. That was when I heard the principal ringing for school. Time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing tears as they ran down her cheeks. You're so mean, Kei-chan. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going, so don't be late. I left Mion still shaken as I turned to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear some muttering. It was a faint mutter as she spoke to herself. So that's how it is. She wasn't saying it to anyone. Mion talking to herself. It was a sobbing voice that had a kind, giddy, cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was. That bastard! He leaked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fist as tears continued to rain down. She glared at the spot on the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from the demonic expression. The transformation, Mion's transformation, was different than Rena's. I should have killed him when I had the chance. He God, the reason I showed him mercy was because he was going to retire this year. Retiring? Is she talking about Oishi? It felt like the air itself began to distort. With Mion at the center, the world began to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I'd known or experienced such a visage. Rise! Attention! Mion made an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, nobody else spoke the rest of the day. Neither Sachiko nor Rika looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred has almost been too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung, sounded the end of the monotonous school day, which I felt so tense yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join in the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by the exhausting relief that nothing happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath, in the recesses of my heart, achingly, I knew that this would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would be ending as I wished to end it, or if it would end as I hoped it would. Regardless of my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How come it came to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, the air, they wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be that the cries of the cicadas were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere mixed with their shrieks, Tomataki and Satoshi, probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. Where do I realize it? I wonder if I'll be amongst the Higurashi, fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down on my feet, I saw one on his back spasming weakly. There was still much of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At the moment, the shrills ceased at once, as if they huddled together, fearing that the person who brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching, a sound of footsteps that was almost non-existent. If the cicadas hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for a long. But in this moment, when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly among the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I hid myself, holding my breath. The person tailing me was it Rena, like yesterday? If it was what it was, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her, make her go away, like yesterday. If it wasn't her, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. I could tell that the fear that I had beaten back once more was now waiting me for another to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked from behind a tree at the person following me. My imagination had led me astray. It was Rena. A bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. It wasn't the same one I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent, like she was grinning. And in her right hand was an axe. I hid myself behind a tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball. Practicing my swing. There were tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that axe? No excuse. An axe just like that. Keiichi-kun, are you playing hide and seek? My heart was pounding, hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here. Were you trying to scare me? I decided it would be better to reveal myself now since there is still space between us, than to allow Rena to come closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind a tree. I found you. She was pleased that she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of vicious hot and cold substance began to swirl around. If I allow that, it would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. It's not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose. What is it? I blustered, hiding behind the bravado. Rena didn't flinch one bit. Just the same as Keiichi-kun. I'm heading home. Then what's the deal with that axe? What about that bat you're holding? Practicing my swing. I'm treasure hunting. She gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting, huh? At the treasure mound near the dam site, I found a new cute thing. I needed this to dig out. So how can I believe that, You wouldn't believe it, would you? Rena's life was obviously strange. I'd seen that transformation many times before, but this one was completely different. Like mischievous tone and a shrewd glint in her eyes, like something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was so obvious. Wait. She didn't stop walking, not even she left out an eerie laugh. Whenever she got too close to me, I would scurry away and draw her back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape. Don't follow me! I can't do that. My house is this way after all. Whenever I met with Rena on this road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today it was different. She didn't show a hint of trepidation. Wait, wasn't I the one who was cowering? The way home from Rena and me was the same. That's fine, I'll just change routes. That'll work, wouldn't it? I turned to a side street that I had never been down and knew little about. But she saw me do that and followed me as she laughed. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Go home down the street you normally do. Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? The thought screaming in my head eventually spilled out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror. Because I want to talk to you. Keiichi wants to talk to Rena too, doesn't he? Doesn't he? I don't want to talk about anything with you. It's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there? Nothing. I have nothing to talk to you about. That's a lie, too. No, it's not. Her scream echoed, stirring some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace. Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk. Why was I running down this unfamiliar, deserted street? Doesn't Keiichi-kun have something he's worried about? Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Liar. Even though I was running, even though Rena was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away? I know. I really do know. You're scared, aren't you? I'm not scared. I'm not scared of any liar. My breathing grew heavy and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Rena wasn't even breaking a sweat. I'll listen. This time I'll listen. I had no idea what she was talking about or exactly what she wanted to do. This time I'll listen. It'll be different from the time when Satoshi-kun. When she said his name, I turned back for a moment. And even as I did, she was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop. Satoshi was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time, but I didn't listen. I was so sad. Where did this street go, dude? All these twists and turns, up and downs. Hard to believe this was even a roll in the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window. I really regretted when Satoshi-kun transferred. I thought if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that. The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting farther away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm. So you see, I vowed that if there was someone that struggled like him, I'd save them. I didn't want to see anyone transferred out again. Damn it. What does transfer even mean in this context? I'm not gonna let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as he did. Come on, Keiichi-kun, talk to me. I'll be able to understand you. I'm your ally. I started wheezing, out of breath. My lungs were so hot it felt like they were going to explode and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of swinging. I couldn't even afford to scoff at this stupid thought. Keiichi-kun doesn't have anything to worry about. He'll go back to normal. Everyone will be back to being friends, and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time we'll team up and beat Chan. How much fun would that be? Rena couldn't even imagine how much I wished I could turn back the clock these past few days. You could be nice to me again, too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time I'll prepare a nice lunch. We could just hog on right now. Let's go to the dance site together. I'll show you the cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it too. My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Out on my heels, her steps were sharply breaking twigs. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. At least not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled underneath and I crumbled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my back as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Rena was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, she was so cool and composed, she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing at all, rather. I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating. "Are you afraid of something? It's not like you to tremble." Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, the mask of affection. As she had admonished me for trembling, Rena's hands deftly slipped over my head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as I was staring at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. Then as both of her hands met above her head, the axe that she had came into focus. I stared at it in disbelief. It was all I could do. "Tell me, what happened to him?" She stayed like that with the axe raised above her head and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she will never see again. The cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. "I told you, he transferred out." Enough of that transfer crap. Means demon away, doesn't it? You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you? Mion? Someone in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but she did nothing but maintain that smile frozen on her face. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "I'll say it in a way that you'll do. Who is the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths?" "You seem to be confused, Keiichi-kun. There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will." "Isn't his curse just superstition? You believe in that?" "It's not about believing or not believing. Oyashiro-sama exists. Period." Her gaze grew even more gelid. The ferocity of the stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's just no way something like Oyashiro could exist. "You don't believe in Oyashiro-sama?" "There's no way I could. There's no way it could exist." "It exists. Oyashiro-sama exists. Keiichi-kun should have felt it personally." "I never felt something like that." "Haven't you felt someone apologize to you before? Constantly, on top of that?" All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only her voice resounded, loudly, terribly. "You see, until you forgive them, they will always be with you. School, home, your bedside." I couldn't understand what Brenda was saying. "It came to me too. Oyashiro did. That's why I transferred and came back to Higurashi. I don't understand. What does transfer here mean?" What was she saying? "Hasn't Oyashiro-sama come to you as well, Keiichi-kun? I'm probably the only one who you could find it. I'm not gonna let you transfer out, okay?" Her demented laugh clanged around inside my head. Was Rena really saying that Oyashiro came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about that when I asked about Rena. Please keep this confidential. Part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. You still interested? Neither the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there was no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter, so all of these details are just what I heard, meaning it's not that credible. Victims? Didn't Rena just break windows? No, she attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises, but the other had been injured so badly, one of his eyes was permanently damaged. Wouldn't that be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report, so... Beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries, nor would there be a criminal investigation. But why didn't they press charges? I tried asking them for their side of the story, but they all were reluctant. Hard to say, but they were all afraid, even after she transferred schools. Koichi, couldn't you summarize it, starting from the beginning? Rena hit people when she broke windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? It sounded similar, but the meaningless were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Rena Ryugu was conversing with 3 male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? Can't reveal their names, but they were close to her, and they said that they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl of the group. Wasn't that strange that the 4 of them were together? So what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down one after the other. No witnesses. This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Rena and 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather they usually meet up there. Probably became a heated discussion. At the time, she underwent a change. The change was so abrupt the 3 of them didn't comprehend what happened. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after the other. Leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their heads, she made her way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on scene and subdued her. What's this change that she underwent? Well, matches up with the statements from 3, a sudden change. The point that there was a transformation. Of what? Recall that transformation. I've seen that many times before. It was so different from the usual that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like her. What they're talking about? Had it happened before? No, nothing like that. As far as I could find out in their medical history past, there was nothing like that. Does it happen often when people change suddenly like Rena did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that could cause something like that. You're saying there was a dormant element in Rena that could cause this? I can't say for certain, but according to the statements of her friends, it's hard to believe she had such side effect. Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. All of a sudden, that girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat? Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believe I was mistaken for thinking that Rena even now. What happened after that? A hospital right across the school. The 3 of them were carried and treated. And Rena? What about the police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? The police can't get involved unless they're called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage, why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges if they wanted to. We're talking about you after all. Of course you looked into it. Yeah, but I told you at the beginning, didn't I? They were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch that matter, or rather they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. Resembled the villagers here in Oishira's curse. Didn't the teacher at the school tell you anything? School's hollow ground. You could say they tend to keep scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly. No comment from the school, huh? No. They denied the incident ever happened. It's just 3 male students were carried for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was in the hospital records. So the victims didn't speak. The school denied it happened. And now you don't know anything at all. I know nothing other than the incident itself taking place. The victims wish this incident be kept from the public. So if you and I both forget about it, Mayabara, this incident will probably just fade away. After that, she was suspended by school. During the time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Hear anything from that? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics. You know, doctor-patient confidentiality. Or at least that was tight-lipped. Nothing even after you showed them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself has no legal binding authority. How'd you know Rena confessed that it was Oishiro who did it? A nurse I asked in the department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. What did she say? Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently all that she remembered was she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said at the time Renariga was very calm and mild-mannered. More like she was confessing her sins at the church than counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Rena. Boy with Oyashiro. When did that pop up? Partway through, she screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening. It was Oyashiro-sama! She shouted. I had no idea what was said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collecting asked Rena to have a seat. What is this Oyashiro-sama you speak of? Whoever abandoned Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oyashiro-sama. And they finally gotten to me. That's the town you lived in before you moved here, isn't that right? I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to. But Oyashiro wouldn't allow it. Yuka must have had a lot of friends there. Even now you must be missing them dearly, don't you think? I want to go back. I want to go back to Hinamizawa. It's not that I want to go back, I have to. I should have gone back much sooner. But now it's too late. Oyashiro's come. Is it the name of the god in Hinamizawa? Everyone knows it's the guardian deity. If you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you incur his wrath. You moved quite a while ago, didn't you? It was just now that this god had arrived, was what you're saying? He might not believe me, but Oyashiro exists. Oyashiro-sama's doing. There is that kind of superstition in Hinamizawa, that if you leave the village you incur the wrath. You should be familiar with this part, Mayabara. It's my first time hearing that. Stand outside Thras being cursed by the village, but why did villagers who leave? Normally people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed. I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I see it as a rule that people who come in are ones who will be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder, curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? I told you long ago when Hinamizawa was called Unigafuchi, didn't I? I heard that. Long ago, it was viewed and respected as the village of ogres. The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped these ogres, so Unigafuchi was hollow ground you could never enter. It came to be said that if you enter carelessly, you were cursed by the god. Those who set foot in Unigafuchi, in other words Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I know that, but for leaving to also be no good? The ogres, you see, they were being strictly watched by Arashiro-sama, so they would not enter into our world. So he probably restricted the interaction between Fuchi and the rest of the world. Let's see. I finally understood what sort of thing Arashiro was. Basically, Oyashiro is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world. How it would seem. Sorry, I don't know very much myself. It's mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I couldn't understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Himiza will be cursed. Those who try to leave would be cursed. Because Renda originally lived here and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements of being cursed. So that means because Renda moved away against his wishes, she's cursed by Arashiro. Is that what it adds up to? In short, it seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back, after all. Those who abandoned Himizawa left were cursed. But why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents be guilty of the same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? In this day and age, Japan shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal. At most, there'd be one person dying and one disappearing on the day of the Watanagashi. I didn't like saying at most. Well, anyways. There's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Orishiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up as to why her classmates, the victims who were beaten with a metal bat, would press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed that a terrible curse had befallen on them, don't you? I didn't want to believe it. More importantly, I just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection Brenda made between Orishiro's curse and the metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Orishiro's curse and went missing. I recently learned that Satoshi became infatuated with the metal bat before he disappeared, like I did. And Brenda as well. She was affected by Orishiro's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon she used at the time of the hardness act was again a metal bat. And finally me. I encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now also only a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. But it couldn't be. The same thing happened to Rena? There was one critical difference between her and his case. Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse. Rena's still here. Both of them fallen victim to Orishira's curse, yet they met with different endings. Finally me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I really was under the curse right now? More importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been dimmed away, vanished without a trace. Rena was fine. What am I talking about? She'd undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Rena residing within her. And here right now it was standing before me. Tell me, what will happen to me? Satoshi disappeared, but Rena didn't disappear. So what will happen to me? I never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. They become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling. Don't worry. I'll save you. Rena took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then, one step closer, her face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. She was close enough to touch my nose, and I was still pushing loose. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you. Speak. Speak. I slumped down, landing squarely on my rear. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get that far away. I had the gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end, because when the laughter ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast that even I couldn't believe it, and I shoved her down with both hands. She was as light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she was sent backwards as if she was carried off by the wind. After caburring that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. I was the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from her. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than that. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto a battery the entire time. Worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this at such an important time. I sped even farther down the winding path. I didn't feel myself gasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of that simulacrum of Rena coming from behind me. It ran through the trees into my head and slowly chiseled away my sanity. The grove of trees thinned out, my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment I was bewildered by the scenery, and I felt I knew, but I couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized it was the damn site. The fact that I dashed madly ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there was no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, they might not be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back looking for an excuse to rest. Rena wasn't there. Instead, two villagers were walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief, but that it wasn't Rena, but a third party. Except the voice inside me rang an alarm once again. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in and of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes, empty-handed. They didn't give the impression they were just out for a walk. But this time of day, two adults wandering around without a purpose was enough to raise questions. But more than anything, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was at the end of my rope and finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Brennan would catch up. That's right. I was going to run. Deciding that the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I had jumped to the conclusion Rena was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption that I didn't need to fear anything else. But right now, I realized how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story Higurashi told me about the demons leaving the village, the hunt prey floating through the back of my mind. I couldn't tell they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frantic footsteps. It was frightening being able to shake Rena off as she slowly closed in on me, but this didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, the straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuer's arms grazed my shoulder. Now it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, Keiichi. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding air go still, like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world. I realized how close my pursuers had gotten me. I could tell I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice when this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me, and then what? Don't think about it, Keiichi. First realize you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the fact that you can't get away was given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right leg or go with the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right. Left. I swung the bag in a wild arc with my right arm. Using that inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. What? The two of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both of their outstretched arms ready to grab me, instead grabbed an empty space. The man on the right, and I applaud him for being able to figure it out, spun around to the spot I shouldn't have been and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't need to sweep back. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. By no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. But just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain that this wasn't just two people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Rena. Just by not recognizing their faces, not knowing them, it made things easier. A smile wryly on the inside. So what do you want with me? Next one's gonna be right in your face, you bastard. It's fine if it was just a bluff. Barking out at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me with unbelievably calm expressions. One of them would grab onto my bat and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once? It would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. Then I just had to settle it with the first move. I step in and strike the first one down. Narrow me on my target down to the man on the right who had already been knocked down before. I stepped in and swung. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. If they locked in with an arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back to it, it was possible that the blow would travel all the way to the vital organs. It looks like he was aware of this. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right to my gut. Not good. With this distance, with this position, with this state, no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on the soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil pressed against my face. It didn't hurt after all. But the moment I thought that, it suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions of my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well I didn't have time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment, the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing to my stomach full force, once again my assailant twisted around me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled, or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened, and a silent whining noise began to play deep in my mind. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake this arm off me, I couldn't run. I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with a phrase that adequately described my situation. This must be the last part. A familiar ceiling, the smell of the bed and pillows. I knew them well. My room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but the presence made me spring wide awake. When I did, the pain that shot through my body... Oh... Feeling alright? I think it's just better to lie down for a bit. Why was Rena in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and my capillaries. But Rena's smile belonged to the Rena I knew. I knew I should have let myself feel this way, but I relaxed, thinking this is the version of Rena that was safe. Why am I... Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body became more lethargic than I could have ever imagined. I guess that would be the experienced outcome after all. Or the expected outcome, after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you're better just lie down. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the damn site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, you were already passed out. That's why I'm the one that wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. I remembered what happened right before I passed out, recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess to clear up. Let's forget about this too. I didn't expect Rena to be nursing me. I thought Rena was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she'd nursed me back to health. I used to drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at her delicate frame, it was hard to believe she had not only gotten me back home, but dragged me all the way up to the second floor. Yes, she had some help? Don't you remember? She was a bit surprised, but she kept her smile. I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and you were fine. You don't remember, do you? I didn't. My memory was fuzzy after that point. What about those two? Huh? When you got there, Rena, the ones were me and rather those two guys. There wasn't anyone, she said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at the time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Rena. But if I did that, then this kind of rend might transform into the scary one. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it was obvious the choice. If both those two men were out there, I don't think Rena would have even stood a chance. Couldn't find a way to explain it, unless I assumed she brought me here after the two were already gone. She was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something, akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. A small omen sent shivers down my spine. While she was still her, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi. She stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. She couldn't say anything else. While Rena stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang. It must have been the doctor Rena called. It was strange for a patient to welcome the doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take Oishi to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption and regretted it. It's Mion. You look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check up. How did you know I collapsed? I heard it from Rena on the phone. Do I need any other reason than that? I understood why she would call a doctor. But why would Mion be called too? Rena was ascending the stairs behind me. Rena, does K-chan look pretty alright? See, she made me worried for nothing. That's true. Maybe I was worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling there was a darkness looming. What's up with the shoe rack? How did it get like this? The shoe rack I smashed into pieces have been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bat I was holding at the time slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of our business to myself. But leaving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later. Now come on, K-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Come on, back to bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. No chance to call Oishi. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Rena. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign, it was heartwarming. During an instant conversation, Mion said something I thought it was perfectly ordinary. Rena, did you call the manager? Yeah, right after I called Mi-chan. He said he'd be right over. The manager? That out of place word gave me a bad feeling. She called a doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called a manager? Who was this manager? Since Rena and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What the hell are you two talking about? Who's this manager? What, you forgot? We meet the manager when we send manager. like the director of a movie or like a foreman of a construction site. I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have business with me, or the only thing came to mind. When Rena just said, the construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident, the dismemberment of the dam site. That foreman? But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could have called him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does that manager have to do with me? He said he was coming. Don't you mean my house? I asked one obvious question after another. All the two would smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly I felt discomforting and panic welling inside me. I couldn't understand what Ria and Mion were talking about. Keichan, you got into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So who is this? The manager is the manager of the baseball team. Okay, I said that myself because, fuck it, because you'll probably find out sooner or later if either you heard about it through the anime, or you heard about it from some other place, or you already seen this before. The manager is the manager of the baseball team. There. Might as well just put that out of the way, because I bet you guys will probably find that out sooner or later. Or probably have already known. Yeah, they're gonna continue on with this bullshit. Yeah. More laughing. Oh yeah, we should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you? Her face was laughing, but the eyes told a different story. Remember what? Cage-kun, have you forgotten about the penalty? The penalty? Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi? The homework where you were supposed to guess which one Rena made? You forgot all about that homework, didn't you? I didn't have that homework, but I'd thrown it away the rest of the mochi after I found the sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one she made. The penalty for that? What is it? No doubt my question was all over my face. Their answer to my question was dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane. Strange. Incomprehensible. Chased by Rena. Attacked by strange men. The penalty that you two are talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize I had been dragged into a normal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these supposed doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? She had gone behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing? Don't move. This is your penalty. My body was already sluggish, and Rena pinning my arms made it much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength would have been impossible for the Rena that I knew. These thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they? Kei-chan, no struggling. Crowd rules. There are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Not the thing that looked like Mion. Spoke to me like how she would normally speak to me. But I was certain this wasn't her. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone just pretended to be her. We need to finish this up before the manager comes. She fished into her pockets and pulled out a bizarre thing. I could tell what it was just by looking. For such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind just couldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. A small, clear syringe, like a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. She held me even tighter, Rena did. And I could hear that clattering laughter, that no longer sounded like laughter. That eerie laughter wasn't something that I knew that she could even produce from her own voice. This thing that was pretending to be Rena, was this the real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer. The needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times. Don't you worry, it won't hurt. What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this. I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense. You're going to have done to you what happened to Tomatake. What? The same as Tomatake? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have to do with that syringe? You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized by now. She whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke, it was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomatake? Everyone thought at first that it was a hit and run, except when the officer got close to check if he was still alive, he soon noticed it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife? No. Nails. Nails? His fingernails. With those gouged through? That's right. Tomatake clawed his own throat out with his own nails, and died. No way something could die like that. So then for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomatake's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomatake's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they laughed. To assume that such a medicine exists just because the police don't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused it to die in such a bizarre manner did exist. If Mion injected this into me, then there will probably be all the proof I need. That will basically mean that I ended up the same as Tomatake. Become hysterical, scratching my own throat at the last moments, and then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be even holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it. At that moment, I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight to his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him? Just give up. Alright then? Her actions lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation. As if she was brushing her teeth, she reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head, and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast, or did someone hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, the entire room changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities. How long have I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. What's how little time passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, just a dull silence. Resin wasn't there bending my arms, and Mion wasn't there to inject me with a needle. No way, could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I've ever had. I was certainly with Rena and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that horrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Rena nor Mion would ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell that my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't. Kind to everyone, not discriminate against age or gender. Mion. Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her, the deep red from head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly come from her. She always had that bright smile and was kind for me from the day I transferred. And Rena? She was slumped on my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come and save me? They beat these two down with this... Wait. With this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. No doubt this was what had been used to mutilate both of them. I was holding it. I was the only person in that house. Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of any other reason than myself who would have done it. I did this? That's right. Keiichi. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood... There's so much. Neither Rena nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood. Nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red. That told me that it didn't just end with 3 or 2 strikes. Are they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do it like you always do. Throw your head back. Take a deep breath. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head. And relaxed. Color came back to my vision and the smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Renan and Mion attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same sentence Tomataki had. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Rena as she was pinning my arms. And I followed through with my spin and ran my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. She tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat that was left carelessly by the side of my desk. At that moment, everything went pitch black. Nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. That wasn't right. It wasn't there that nothing was recorded. It was recorded just fine. The other me inside myself had told me not to look, and I turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it didn't mean the videotape with me had recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video still played on. Compared to this, though, this scene right before my eyes was still so difficult to take in. Blood spattered everywhere on the walls, and the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I attacked them. I might have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I even felt bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. The two of them collapsed. Here with me on syringe, filled with some unknown drug that would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomatake. And from the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after the other. I might be suspected for this, but that was just fine. Now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Renna's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably visit their investigation on the chain of incidences. Oishi would definitely get to the bottom of it. My wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth, that will be fulfilled in its most basic form. All a matter of time now. The Dr. Renacall should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I need to contact Oishi. I remembered something. Besides a doctor, a manager was called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from those two's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I've done dissipated rapidly. Not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi. It's not over yet. I need to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I feel like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. A bizarre sight. 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men that had assaulted me at the dam site. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as one. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretending to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and the rest of them would all rush in at once. The moment I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart skipped a beat. That white van. No mistaking it. That van, the one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid their bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break in the window and enter. I need to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oishi. Meeting up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. Before all that, there was one thing I had to do. No intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that is why. There was one thing more important to getting out of here. I need to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi, the only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn college-ruled notebook paper would be this reliable. I have no time. I had only written what I knew. I need to leave some sort of information that will lead me to uncover the truth. Whether or not beyond conspirators or the perpetrators, this was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I leave all this information that would help them lead in finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I knew was able to see from the window. There may be more. There was an unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, then only one from the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder, the very first victim in the chains of incidents, killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Red and Mion did call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead.
The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased be involved. Could be some sort of oversight. I didn't know, but even if I did, it couldn't be a big hit for Higurashi. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then, there must be something hidden. Please reinvestigate the victim of the dismemberment incident. He might be alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you wouldn't think that's much. But wasn't that really the case? Could have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. Ow, shit. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, something even more important. Tomatake's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug, it was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt just by having this, everything will be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe up the back of the clock with plenty of tape, so it absolutely will not slip out and fall on the floor firmly. Firmly. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore. But even still, one last thing. I have no idea why he's become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth of everything I wrote on this note. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead, though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse, or being demoned away. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck behind the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray, Higurashi, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Rena and Mion. This was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Rena, Mion. I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun at my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores. About that the school I hoped to get in was what I really wanted to go, or a safety net. That all was I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I call friends were just rivals in studying and competitions, personal records, standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was fun. Making a fuss over lunch, fuss over club, a fuss over the festival. Something hot began to drip from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have no obligation to shed tears for them, but they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or it could be those happy days were all a facade as well. Was it all a trap meticulously orchestrated until they to ensnare me? Could it have been that I had just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Rena and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days were nothing fake and unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me. Or their minds were taken over and possessed by this supernatural entity known as Oyashiro. Regardless, both Rena and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. They weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends regardless of whether or not they were forced. No way such a thing like being possessed by Oyashiro could happen in reality. Then did the real Rena and Mion capture after me? What was I even thinking? What a silly and dumb idea. Having beaten down by both those two, I was still debating if they were real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake, only reality that was before me. Rena and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Those two were both dead. I felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. Like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded and an opening insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Rena and Mion. I've killed them. The doorbell rang. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I'd definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason, and I killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living, so I can't. For my sake and for the sake of the late Rena and Mion, I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind this single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen. Headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly so as to not make a sound. There he is, back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here. One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence. Those things you usually have when you have time to spare, they spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms or forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue or pain. My entity being wished to live. The air was nothing else it desired. Probably had no complaints whatsoever. So of course it wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran, recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind where I was heading. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was without a doubt chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran, full speed. The chirping of the Higurashi that told me it was even tried to tell me something, and I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only they knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. I ran towards where I could hear more of the chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther they became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. I thought that only they knew. Why would you discard a 5 Manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. You're still in Tenpai if you cut the 5 Manzu. If you're betting on a Haite, then you shouldn't be going in with a Mangan? Kuma-chan, look at the pond. They're all discarded 5 Manzu. It's a safe title. You would hate if at the end game someone would still not be on a temp by the last turn. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call it wrong with your winning tile in that Haite. Why is that? Are you in Hiroishi? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. Why can't you come around on it? Hold on for a second, Oishi. Outside line. From a payphone. Why, thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Oishi-san, hello? Vivinisa Maebara. Why, good evening. I must be in a predicament. First time Maebara had phoned me like this. He was calling from a payphone? Please calm down. Something happened? Well, voice sounds erratic. Must have lost his sense of composure. What happened? Calm down, Maebara. I can have all the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice is quivering and hoarse. He isn't surrounded by people even as he was making this call, was he? Maebara, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where's that payphone? Come on. Calm down, Maebara. What's your current situation? You didn't just get in trouble and then get away and call me. There's gotta be a reason. It must be something dangerous. It just needless caused him to be even more frantic. He wasn't just calling to seek help. He's trying to tell me something. But what? If I didn't get it from this call, I certainly... there wouldn't be another chance. Too long! How many officers are in there? 2? 2's not enough! Did you call the officer station at Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out, and it'll be impossible to contact them. God damn it! Goma, bring the car around. Understood. Oops. Hello? Oishi-san? Hello? It's alright. I can hear you loud and clear. Something's wrong. That wasn't a normal cough. Is that vomiting? Blood? Hey, are we being attacked? Injury? Maebara, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple of minutes. Hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Maebara! Worst possible situations popping in my head. Maebara! Who's the culprit? How many are there? I thought... at first... the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if that cough was... a cough or vomit. Are you alright? Maebara! I thought the culprit was a person, and not Oyashiro-sama's curse. Up until right now. But I guess in the end... It was an intense bout of coughing and vomiting. I guess Oyashiro does exist. Oh, he's here. Maebara, please, just please calm down. I've been thinking it was strange for a while now.
been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like a shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's digging in myself. It's digging into my back.
Maibara, are they right now? Perhaps right behind you?
Behind me. Right behind me.
Please, Maibara, I can tell you're scared. Please, who is it that's right behind you?
I can't just look behind me. If I do,
I understand you're scared. Please tell me. You just need to turn around for a bit. Who is it? Who's behind you? Maibara? It couldn't be that you're clawing out your throat. Hello? Hello? Maibara? Hello? Hello? Maibara-san? The line's dead. Did he use up his time? God, it was because it was a payphone. It's because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Oishi, the car's good to go. Oishi? It was... I'm sorry. Oishi? That's what he was repeating over and over. He just kept saying, I'm sorry. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling from the open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only they knew. That's how I felt. July 1983, in Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Keiji Maibara, in his teens. The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, Rina Miyuku and Mion Zonosaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with significant quantity of splattered blood. There were signs of struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen held traces of the struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There is the possibility the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It's hard to believe this had a connection to the struggle with the victims. Thus, the reason for this remains unknown. The garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was thrown about in the surrounding area, and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed the suspect has for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown. In addition, there was a note struck to the fridge. The words "Was there a needle?" were written in it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional and had been left open ever since the suspect moved in, the garage door was found closed. Suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. Reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa Local Police Department, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time discovered, the suspect was unconscious in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment, but did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicated immediate cause of death had been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed his own throat with his fingernails, and the result bleeding caused his death. With similarity to the death of Tomitake the prior week, the police had been there to be in connection and had opened an investigation. Due to the wishes of local authorities, it will be confidential. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake, no traces were discovered. What prompted all that remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. With several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, and inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police had begun an investigation on the possibility that the crime was not committed on impulse, but instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets of B5 college rule notebook that had been torn in half. As if trying to conceal, it was stuck behind a clock on the wall. The contents are written in the appendix. The police believed to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility the suspect was involved in a strange incident himself. No further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulse or premeditative? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been labeled as unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from 2 separate sheets, but it was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that something other than the note was stuck there had arisen. The person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have connection with the incident, Kurado Oishi. He underwent voluntary questioning but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note. I, Kaiji Marabara, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro Sama's curse. Rena and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all on the first sheet. Everything below has been ripped out. This is from the second half. Everything above this has been ripped out. I have no idea why it's become like this. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. though the only difference may be the presence or lack of a body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. This is my only desire. Keiichi Maebara. And that's pretty much it. A new scenario has been unlocked. All cast reviews section has become available. To play this, select extra on the title menu and pick the all cast reviews session. So, since there's still plenty to deal with, oh, I'm mucking up badly. Let's check this out. Thank you for buying Higurashi When They Cry Oni Kakushi, a visual novel by 7th Expansion. How was it? If you enjoyed it even a little bit, it would make me happy. Even a little bit is stretching it. An incredibly dark ending made me angry, you know. Made us angry. As I understand, this Oni Kakushi chapter is supposed to be somewhat of a prologue to the entire series. How could the prologue have such an incredibly dark ending? Well, doesn't it happen sometimes? The player digging through the story in order to avoid a bad ending is the point of these types of games. It's still just the first chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one. What happens in the next chapter? Rena, do you know? Yeah, they said the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story. Strange way of putting it. What does that mean? In this chapter, they introduce a string of mysterious deaths that were happening in Hinamizawa recently. The next chapter will introduce the history of Hinamizawa. With one strange event happening another, I get totally lost. So what exactly is Oishira's curse about? Actually, what is it to begin with? Why? Well, it didn't explain much, I gotta agree. I haven't heard much about it, but I have kind of a bad feeling about it. Feels like it'll be another one of those scary stories where somebody gets cursed again. Tough luck, Kei-chan. What kind of curse is he gonna get hit with this time? However, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of story he's going to be. Sorry for being late. Oh look, everybody's here. Must be the party. I'm just gonna keep silent and we'll just go through this. This feels like a Hollywood film for some weird reason. Well, let's see about our theories. I absolutely believed it was people. It was a man-made incident that was just imitating the strange folklore surrounding Hinamizawa. And Rena's?
So-called chain of mysterious deaths. That's simply somebody trying to reenact folklore. It's definite. That is true. A red herring. I think I had a red herring in the comment section of a different YouTube video. Oh, let's see what you have to say. I just realized some of the faces are blurred. I guess it's to avoid, recognition. It's like fucking watching a Hollywood behind the scenes. Oh, Sadako, yikes. Well, let's summarize then. It might have been a curse. Tomotaki thinks it was people. I agree with the people explanation. So there's 2 for people and 1 curse. One curse. 2 maybe. Well, now the votes are split right down the middle. Half of us think it's a curse, and half of us think they were people. Rena, just for reference, what did the test players who played the beta version think? Yeah. There were a lot more players who believed the people explanation. We need one more opinion. Hello, Keiichi-kun. It's Rena. Are you busy with work? Yeah, I'm really busy. Just when I thought I'd get a break because of the chapter, already time for the next one. Yikes. I can hear you know. Must have been nice having a wrap-up party. I wanted to go too. I'm really sorry, even though you're busy reviewing the script. So, what is it? It's obvious, isn't it? Isn't it both of them? Targeted by suspicious people from the village, then cursed by a strange Oishiro someone on top of that. It's both humans and a curse. Everyone's just picking on me. Yeah, the opinion's still split. Well, time to look forward to the next release, Higurashi When They Cry, Watanagashi. At the time of this recording, it's available on Steam. The Onikakushi Party. Supposedly, I've read them all. I think this is all I can do for now. Unless I missed something. I'll get back to you on that. But for now, I think this chapter is concluded. If you want me to continue this, I pretty much place a link to where you can be able to gift me it, if you shall choose. I'm not forcing you to do it. But, it will be nice. It's probably worth a good try anyways. Or maybe you have something else for me in particular. Whichever the case may be. I hope to see it later. For now, I'm just gonna call it quits.